When I spoke to Pierre about what today's topic should be, we realized that we share an interest in smart objects and Internet of Things and connected stuff. And I've been thinking about that for a while, and also a lot about Toy Story. So that's today's theme. Designing well-behaved things. So it's kind of easy to fall into the trap to design stuff that misbehaves. I run a design studio. It's a very small design studio, few employees and a few consultants. It's called Nobiz, after the song "There's no business like show business," and it sort of works between design and communication. So we think a lot about the attention economy, and I think the attention economy is sort of the competition for people's attention. It's a scarce resource that just gets more valuable all the time, and it used to be something that advertisers thought a lot about, and then came social media, and now social media is everybody's fighting for each other's attention on social media. But it also has implications for design, because objects fight for our attention too. It's quite visible on our home screens. Our mobile phones very often look like this, like they have the measles. They're like notification badges all over them, so they look kind of sick. And you can't. This is not a good experience, really. Like, you can't act on all of these red dots. It's stressful, but it's sort of a natural consequence of the attention economy, because all these apps have their own business models. They want to be used by us, so they want our attention. If you use them, you might watch ads inside of the app. So the people who made the app might get paid for that. Or it's a subscription-based app, maybe, that you pay for over time. So you got to remember to use it, so you will renew your subscription. And they're all competing, sort of. Very few of these apps collaborate. I guess Facebook and Messenger and Instagram, there's a collaboration going on between those apps. But many of them are just sort of independent apps that all want our attention. So Scott Belsky wrote an interesting article very recently about this. He sort of talked about how the way notifications behave today can be explained by this model of the tragedy of the commons, which means that whenever anything is for free and shared by many people or many forces, I guess, it tends to get abused over time. So it started, I guess, with pasture, where animals were grazing, and that led to sort of ecologies getting destroyed eventually, because they were the commons, and people sent too many animals to graze in the same place. And I think this is sort of, it makes sense. So what gets destroyed when all the apps send notifications to us? It's sort of our experience with a mobile device. Our attention is a limited resource, and all these apps compete for it. So I've been thinking about the attention economy for a long time, and I like to sort of project into the future a little bit. So a few years ago, 5 years ago, I spoke at the conference here in Malmö about what will happen, what might happen when we get more and more screens around us. So again, screens capture our attention. So if any surface could be turned into a screen, I think we might see this sort of arms race of content on screens around us. And I find it kind of interesting that now we're still used to having sort of billboards or ads that are still images, but then, moving images are more engaging than still images. So I think we'll see an increase in moving images. And if you go to densely populated places in China and East Asia, there are, so many screens all over the place already. It's not really regulated in cities. And the same goes for, then maybe interactive content might actually be the next level if you want to compete for people's attention. So at least, it's sort of along the same theme of the attention economy applied to digital design. But then the very best story I think there is about this phenomenon is a beautiful piece of design fiction. It's called Addicted Products, I think. And it's a story about a toaster called Brad the Toaster. Is anybody familiar with this story? Yes, a few of you. It won a prize at an interaction design conference a few years back. But it's a beautiful story because this toaster is addicted to attention from humans. It just wants to be used. So it actually is connected to other toasters, and it knows how much other toasters are being used, how much toast they are making. So this toaster gets depressed if it's not used by human beings. And there's even a twist to the story that the toaster can even what do you say? It can call for UPS service, like transport service, and get transported to another host who promises to make a lot of toast. So it's sort of people get to compete to host these toasters. And there was an experimental web service up and running for a few years by this guy who made this piece of design. I keep forgetting his last name, but his first name is Simon. So I really love this story, and this story, of course, reminds me of Toy Story. So in Toy Story, we have all these toys that are competing for the attention of Andy, the child, and that these toys just want to be played with. That's their purpose in life. So you know, Brad the toaster was mainly envious of other toasters, how much they were used. But just imagine a world where, you know, you wouldn't just objects are addicted to our usage and our attention, but they would also be, you know, envious not only of other toys or other toasters. They would be envious, you know, my TV would be envious if I was using the stereo, or the stereo would be envious if I was spending too much time with my new drone or whatever. So I think there's a lot of interesting twists to this story that sort of can inspire designers who build connected objects, you know, intelligent, smart, whatever, Internet of Thingsy products for consumers. So here's a scene from when Buzz Lightyear appears. And of course, all the other toys get really suspicious, especially Woody, because he was Andy's favorite, and he's really worried that Buzz Lightyear would get more of Andy's time now. So that's a possible scenario, right? You get a new gadget, and all the other gadgets would conspire against it, maybe. Then there's sort of the question of leadership. So for some reason, I think Woody. I guess I assume that all of you have seen Toy Story, but so you know who Woody is in this picture, right? So Woody would be the leader. But you know, he still has to work pretty hard to convince all the other items to collaborate with him. And sort of you have this conflict of new items appearing and the power structure changing. They need to trust him. And in the third film, which is a really good one actually, there are even these really evil toys appearing who appear to be nice in the beginning, but they are tyrants, and they start actually abusing other toys. So that's also a possible scenario, you know. I guess, you know, in the Internet of Things world, everybody wants to create this hub, this centerpiece that's going to connect all of your things. And it's going to be the sort of the most intelligent piece of equipment you have that's going to control all the others. But you know, a year or two down the line, there will be some other piece of technology which is even smarter that you might want to get. And you know, maybe it will override the old power structure. I don't know. I'm quite sure, at least, that it's not going to look like this. This is sort of the really proper vision of what people might think that IoT will be like, Internet of Things. You know, you will have a smart fridge, a smart oven, a smart dishwasher, a smart microwave, smart blind, smart kettle, smart socket, smart air conditioner, smart toaster, smart socket again, and so on. And it all will be sort of new and super fresh, and it's all connected according to the same beautiful standard, you know, and they all know how to collaborate. In Toy Story, you get these sort of really interesting stories and messy interactions between the toys, because they're not all new. Some of them have been around for a long time. Some of them have shown up just recently. Some are visitors. Some are strangers. And I think, you know, we need to think about that when we design for the smart home. There's a few people I know that like sci-fi here, at least Christopher. And I mean, there's this. If you think of sci-fi movies, they have these different visions. There's like the really organized and very pure sci-fi where everything is beautifully aligned, like 2001: A Space Odyssey. it looks like everything is perfect, polished, clean future. And then there are like these really more dirty, messy sci-fi visions like Blade Runner, and I think also Star Wars is a little bit like that. You know, they can hardly start that really, really great starship, the Millennium Falcon. They have to slam like the board before they can start the machine, right? It's messy and it's old and it's worn. So I don't really believe in these type of IoT visions. I think that we need to figure out ways of making old and new things work together. So I think that's sort of one of the main design principles that I'd like to promote when I think about, and I work with the Internet of Things type of products. So some examples. This is probably one of my very favorite examples of this sort of mixing old and new. It's from the design studio Berg in London. They don't exist anymore, but they were my favorite studio. And they made all these vision videos, and I like to make videos too, but they're all just attempts at being as good as Berg. But Berg made this video about different new media surfaces, and this video here is just really a screen, like a digital photo frame almost. And all it does is it listens to audio and tries to visualize that audio. So it's fully possible to do this today, because now we have really quick image search and really quick voice recognition. So when this really old radio is playing some audio documentary by David Attenborough talking about animals, all the stuff he talks about is constantly updating this screen. So the screen is really novel and smart and built on sort of the latest technology, but it works really well with this old radio. And I really love that vision. We work with a lot of teams and startups, and here's one example of a project that we're working on, which is about making smart gym machines. So gym machines are, you know, you do very repetitive, very predictable type of work with a gym machine. So it kind of makes sense to build digital services around a gym machine. But if you wanted to sort of exchange a gym machine at a gym for a new one just because you want one with sensors in it, it's going to be super expensive. So when people think like, oh, we'll just take another, you know, another generation of updated hardware, then we'll have smart things. You know, we don't have to wait for that. We can create retrofit sensors like the team here have done to be added onto existing old gym machines to add capability of counting how many repetitions you do and the amount of weight that you have set the machine to and so on. So I really like these type of efforts where you retrofit smartness onto existing objects. And we also have some representatives from Minut here. So this is the Point by Minut, the Malmö startup here. And one of their projects, I'm fascinated by it because it is one of these retrofit approaches. So it is about having this smart sensor thing that you can install into your home to learn about what's going on in your home or to automate things. Now there is a way to train it to recognize other things that goes on in your home. So it was originally built to recognize potentially danger sounds, maybe like glass breaking, but now it's also about, you can train it to recognize your old dishwasher when it's done. You know, it gives a certain sound. And Point doesn't know that in advance, but you can train it. So it recognizes that, and then you can start automating stuff. So it doesn't have to be a smart dishwasher anymore. It's just a smart device recognizing when the dishwasher is speaking. And other sounds that exist in your house. Maybe you have an old analog alarm clock. Now you can connect that sound to a smart device that then can trigger other things. So it's a really nice approach to the retrofit principle. But one of the most important questions I think about future smart objects in the home is how much do we need to know what they're up to? So in Toy Story, one of the things that make Toy Story an interesting film is the fact that the toys they always need to hide that they are alive to Andy. Like when Andy picks them up, they're just normal toys. And he's not allowed to see what they're up to because, his mind would explode. He would go crazy. If there's actually, I think, some guy who goes crazy because he sees some toys that are alive. So that's sort of one of the premises of the film that makes it interesting. But as a design principle, I'm really skeptical of this. You know, the less we know about what's going on, the better. The better. So actually, there has been this whole movement about a no UI movement. Like the best user interface is no user interface. And yeah, I'm just promoting an article I wrote about that. But but I think it's sort of it's an interesting question. Do we need to know very little about this, as little as possible, or do we need to know a lot about what's going on in a world of interconnected devices? And I think that we need to know a lot about it. And of course, it's going to get really messy. It's going to get really hard to understand what's going on, because one object might ask another object for permission to do something, and then tell the third object to do it, and there's a lot of chain reaction interactions that will happen the more smart devices we connect. So again, the people from Berg wrote really well about a big article about defending interaction design, more or less, like saying that this no UI movement that got a lot of headlines in all the media, how it's a dangerous path to go down. But again, like not everybody wants to know exactly everything that goes on, and if you can read code fluently, maybe then it's easier for you to understand what goes on. If you can't read code, then it's our responsibility as designers to try to visualize the interactions that happens with connected devices. So I really recommend this article as well. So one thing that you can do. Oh, hello. One thing that you can do, and I think you should do, is to add delay to your user interfaces. And this is something that is nothing new, but I think it becomes really important when we have these sort of complex interactions of one thing speaking to the next, speaks to the next. So even in existing apps, I think this is an old example. I used to work with TAT and BlackBerry, so I see some old colleagues here today. It's great to see you. We used to design all these user interfaces, but one of the things that we really put effort into were the animations, the transitions. And if you press a button and you trigger an action, it can happen instantly in the digital world. But very often it makes sense to design a transition that explains a little bit about what goes on. Now we're moving into a new part of the UI, or this email is being sent, or whatever. It doesn't have to, even if it happens instantly, you might want to add a little bit of a delay. So this is an old version of the Path app, but just look at what happens when you press the plus sign down there in the bottom. It has this sort of nice bouncy effect where all the sub-options emerge. And they could have done that a lot quicker, but they added some delay to this just because it's kind of nice. You sort of see that these are the plus options, and they come up from here and they disappear into there, so you know where they live. And so this is nothing new. We've been doing this all the time as designers, adding a little bit of delay into the user interface to explain what goes on. And this is a design fantasy that we created many years ago at TAT. It's just about a file transfer. But transferring a file to another device can be done in so many ways. But wouldn't it be really nice if it felt like this? You sort of just push it over the edge, and the other person sees it and wants it, and then they pull it over the edge and to accept it. It's a really nice metaphor for something really simple, just transferring a file. So again, transferring a file would probably be a lot quicker in a different way, but this is very elegant. It explains exactly what goes on, and it's very attractive. So my ideal for device-to-device interactions would be building upon this into something more like Rube Goldberg machines. Are you familiar with Rube Goldberg? This guy? He drew these fantastic, silly chain reaction type of things. And it has been really, really popular in ads on YouTube. Just Google for Rube Goldberg machines. You'll find so many machines that people have built themselves, or agencies have built them for brands, or musicians have them as their music videos. OK Go are famous for their Rube Goldberg machine videos. But when you watch a Rube Goldberg machine, it's like it can take 1 minute or 2 minutes. And you're obviously wasting time, right? But it's so pleasurable. You just enjoy it. It's like you can't stop. So just imagine if we could build upon that sort of feeling of it's actually nice to watch the system working. So I haven't seen many digital inspired Rube Goldberg machines. Again, coming back to Berg, they made a really nice one when they were sort of introducing what NFC could do. And NFC is quite mainstream today, but this one is a bit old. So they made this video of, I think it's playing if I start this, let's see. Yeah. So okay, they swipe the NFC card, which triggers something, that triggers another thing, and so on. It's really beautiful, and I can watch it many times. So you can judge by the age of those phones how old this video is. So this might be like the only really digital Rube Goldberg machine I could find. So please let me know if you know of any others. But Rube Goldberg machines are you know, they're really satisfying because they are very much building upon things being objects. You know, there's gravity. Oh, it's from 2009. Yeah. So I think gravity is one of the sort of interesting design design patterns maybe that nobody really is using it for digital products. I had to go back to this conceptual answering machine by Darrell Bishop. It's a very famous design piece, and I can't play the video, but it's a really nice example of a digital or electronic product that uses gravity as part of the user interface. So whenever a voice message is left on this answering machine, marble will drop, and that marble is sort of the token, the handle to that message. So if you put the marble into the listening position, it will play back the message. And then if you're done, you can feed it back into the source, or you can save it for later and put it on a shelf and say, this is an important message I'm going to keep. So, you know, you might be able to use gravity as a design material, but I'm not sure how useful it is, but I just love it. So when we talk about the Internet of Things, we think a lot about the fact that we distribute the digital capabilities in physical space, but it's not so often that we sort of do something with the actual thinginess of the thing. So a thing has a weight. It has, you know, it has a relationship with gravity. So maybe that can be used. I'm not sure. So I'll try to recap. I know I've been all over the place, but I'm just trying out some new material on you guys. So, you know, things are already competing for our attention today. And I think that it is an arms race, and, you know, today things are competing more for our attention than they did 10 years ago. So I just assume that in the future it will be even worse, because we have more and more objects that can compete for our attention and know what we're up to, and you know, try to grab our attention with notification icons and so on. And many products, apps, and digital products we use are already today behaving as addicts, as if they just want, you know, just give us your attention once more, please. And I think, again, this is something that will continue. So Brad the Toaster vision, I really enjoy that one, because I think it tells a story about where we're heading. But, you know, we don't want this addicted and spoiled products in our life, potentially. We need to try to design products that are more well-behaved, that actually can collaborate a bit. And, you know, like Buzz Lightyear and Woody learned to collaborate eventually. In the beginning, they were competing like crazy, but eventually they learned how to collaborate, because they both had the same goal, to serve Andy and to make him happy. So we need to look for ways in which products actually can collaborate. And I don't think the answer is switch out all of your products in your house at the same time so they all can follow the exact same protocol, the same version of some OS or whatever. I think we need to figure out ways in which we can mix new and old objects in a clever ways. And don't be sneaky. So if you're going to learn anything from Toy Story, it's not that you're going to hide everything from the owner, what's going on. I think it's actually a good idea to tell the owner of the object a lot about what is going on in different ways. I mean, you can communicate through the app, you can have your own user interface, and so on, but really try to visualize what goes on. So we have a chance of following all these device-to-device interactions. Add some delay to those user interfaces, so we have a chance to follow what goes on. And actually, delay can be something pleasurable. It can be really nice if we design it well, like Rube Goldberg machines. And that's it from me. So.